Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. My name's John Campea. You know, in the John Campea Show in the mornings, that's our main movie news show, we take some time and take live questions, but here on Open Mic in the afternoons, that's all we do is just taking open live questions. So, sorry for the slight delay in getting the show started today, guys. Had some stuff I had to take care of, but we are here now, and let's get things rolling with the first question today. And the first question today comes to us from Ben Heyusa, who writes, you're welcome, John. When I noticed you accidentally skipped today's The John Campea Show titled topic, I was like, he'll get reminded when he reads my question. Oh, yeah, so earlier today, like our main topic that we had in the thumbnail image and everything was about Jay Oliva, who came out and said that he read and he was working on the storyboards already for the Ben Affleck Batman script. And this guy, who directed some of the best animated superhero films of all time, The Dark Knight Returns, Doctor Strange, Flashpoint, and a few others. And he is a storyboard artist for movies like Deadpool, Thor Ragnarok, Batman vs. Superman, blah, blah. Anyway, this guy said, the Ben Affleck Batman script is the best Batman script I've ever read. That's what he said. And he talked about how great it is and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I accidentally skipped over that main topic and got right into the Q&A part. And I guess it was you, Ben, who fired in a reminder, hey, what about this thumbnail topic there? So then I finally went back and talked about it. But yeah, stuff like that will happen to me once in a while. So thanks for the reminder, Ben. All right, Trevor Johnson writes, just saw a Tony Ravioli and P.D. Peppers compilation. That look on your face made me laugh so much. I honestly don't know what we're talking about. I don't know what we're talking about. Sorry, Trevor. Snake Jerusalem writes, thoughts on Mayans MC? Is Weekly Hero canceled? I'm not quite sure what one has to do with the other. I haven't watched Mayans MC. I heard not great things about it. Like, I didn't hear terrible things about it. Like, some of you know, Sons of Anarchy is one of my it's in my top 3 all-time favorite TV shows. Sons of Anarchy. So I'm interested in Mayans MC, but I didn't hear great things about it. So I didn't rush to start watching it. So Ann and I are going to start watching it in the next week or two, and we'll get caught up. But I know. Is Weekly Heroes canceled? No, not at all. Weekly Heroes is on tonight, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, we didn't have an episode last week because we had, I talked to you guys, but I went almost 2 days without being able to do a video because I had internet service problems. But no, Weekly Hero is back tonight, 5:30 p.m. Hope you guys will join us. Me, Robert Meyer Burnett, Fact Checker Jonathan's going to be in here too. Looking forward to it greatly. James Welsh writes, young Nick Fury looks good in the EW pick. I'll be honest with you, I didn't even know it was a young Nick Fury. To me, it just looked like Nick Fury. In the picture I saw, I'll be straight with you. I looked at it, and I'm like, it just looks like Nick Fury. But I guess Samuel L. Jackson's got kind of an ageless thing about him. Tacky75 writes, best Lucifer, De Niro in Angel Heart. Well, maybe, look, there are lots and lots of, like, Lucifers to talk about. There's the Al Pacino one in that Keanu Reeves movie, Devil's something. I can't remember the name of the film off the top of my head. Many different Lucifer. So this is all kind of connected to, and by the way, I disagree. I don't think De Niro's in Angel Heart is, but somebody asked me the other day, which was my favorite Lucifer out of the following two? The Lucifer in the TV show Supernatural or the Lucifer in the TV show Lucifer? And I said, it's tough. It's a very, very tough comparison because the two are such radically different characters. Like, they're nothing alike, these two characters. So there's that. So anyway, that's what Tacky is kind of following up with. Damian Munoz writes, hey, John, any tips for an aspiring screenwriter? Just picked up a book and started reading on it. Been writing since the third grade, love films. Honestly, the best advice I've ever read or heard, and it's the same advice I always give to anybody who's blogging, writing, screenwriting, whatever, is just write. Because a lot of times what happens to people who write is they get stuck and they don't start writing until they think of the perfect next line, or what they can't think until they won't do anything until they think of exactly what's supposed to come next. Screw that. Just keep writing. Write whatever gibberish comes in your head. Just write. There's an old saying that says you can't steer a parked car, right? And that's true. You cannot steer a parked car. The only way you can start steering a car is if you get the car moving. So as long as you're not writing, you're parked. You're parked. Just start writing. If you run into a wall for a second, just start writing gibberish. Like if I'm trying to think of the next great scene in a murder mystery I'm writing, and I come to a part, it's like, the reveal that that guy is actually his son. How do I do that? Then just start writing. Bobby started to think about a sandwich he ate earlier today and how delicious it was and how cool it would be if he could share that sandwich with his friends. The mayonnaise, the bread, it's gibberish, but just start writing and you'll find that as you get your car moving, as you get your brain moving, then things start to flow a little bit better and you'll come up with stuff. So my best advice that I ever have to give is just write. Don't sit there and wait for the perfect words, just write. Edit it later, second draft it later, amend it later, just write. And keep writing because you're going to find you're going to get through those creative blocks a lot faster if you keep your head moving rather than putting it in park. So anyway, that's just my advice. Chris Warden writes, I wonder if those people saying Aquaman is getting mixed reactions from its advanced screenings are the same people who said Dark Phoenix is a total train wreck after its supposed advanced screenings. I mean, so Chris is referring to something I was talking about the other day. There's a supposed reports coming out of a test screening. Here's the thing. People who go to these test screenings sign NDAs out the ass. They're not allowed to talk. People going to these test screenings are not allowed to talk about it. Like at all. Now, there are some outlets that are reporting, I heard that the test screening was good. Well, I'm not doubting they were told that. Like, I'm not saying, like, if Bobby, a writer for Movie Daily, wrote, I've been told that the advanced screening for Aquaman was lukewarm. I'm not doubting that Bobby was told that. I'm not suggesting Bobby is lying, not at all. What I'm suggesting is that Bobby is being misled. Because how many times have we seen this? Test screenings for Batman vs. Superman get standing ovations! Really? Test screenings for Justice League suggest it's an unwatchable mess. You may have your problems with Justice League, but it wasn't an unwatchable mess. I kind of like the film, but even if you didn't like it, you gotta say it's not an unwatchable mess. Never believe any reports. Never ever believe any reports about advanced test screenings never believe them. Just brush them off, pay no attention to them. Damian Munoz writes, also, what are 3 classic Disney films you hope to see remade in live action? Never ask me, what are your top 5 or what are your top 3? Never ask me that because I'd have to sit here and think about it for a while, right? And I don't have 15 minutes to think through it. They're already doing a lot. Like we've got Mulan coming, which is great. They've got The Lion King coming, which is clearly The Lion King is my all-time favorite animated film. It is not just Disney, whatever. It is my all-time favorite animated film, bar none. So they're doing that. They did a great job with Cinderella. Not such a great job with Maleficent. That's fine, whatever. But we got a few on the way. They've done Jungle Book and did it beautifully. I don't know. I don't know what else there would be. We've seen a Snow White kind of rendition. That was not so great. But yeah, so I would have to think about it. I just don't have time. But hey, man, we're all looking forward to Lion King. That's for sure. Zach Bartran writes, is there a John Williams score that you feel doesn't get enough credit? For me, it's Jaws 2. It's a complex score with a rich, layered sound, and dare I say, better than the first one. I don't know. I honestly do not remember the Jaws soundtrack whatsoever. I don't remember it at all. I don't remember that one in the least, not even a little bit. So I couldn't tell you anything about it. The one that I often think about, and I might change my mind if I sit down and think about it more, but the one that I often think about, and it's partially underrated because a lot of people don't even realize he composed it, but John Williams' work on Jurassic Park. The Jurassic Park score is brilliant and breathtaking. I mean, I just love it. I think it's fantastic. And when you go through the whole movie, the music accentuates what's happening on screen so perfectly. And I get chills just when I hear the music. Ba 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 ba. Like, as soon as you hear those bars being hummed, you know exactly the movie we're talking about, right? And I think that's one that doesn't get enough credit. I think that's one that doesn't get enough pop, is his work on Jurassic Park. Ben Rayner writes, Keanu says Bill and 3. I'm going to guess you mean Bill and Ted 3. Keanu says Bill and 3 is not likely. Do you think it will happen? I don't know. I've always had my doubts. Like back in March, they made this big announcement. They're moving ahead with Bill and Ted 3. Woo! And nothing still happened. And then lately, the two principal guys have been saying, well, I mean, maybe it's happening. We think. Maybe not. We don't know. I mean, so it's becoming more iffy. I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't. I just think they're realizing there's this perception out there that everybody would go see Bill and Ted 3. And I don't know that that's the case. Now, don't get me wrong. I'll be one of the first guys there to watch it if they make it. Completely. I mean, I'm there. I'm there with a Bill and Ted 3 flag and the whole bit. And I'd be totally excited for it. But just because I'm excited for it, I don't know that a lot of the movie-going audience are. I think there's a segment of us online movie fans that get really hyped for it, but will the average moviegoer go to see it? I'm not so sure they would, to be honest with you. And I can't help but wonder if that reality is setting in. And I don't know. So I'm going to guess no, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see. I certainly hope it happens, but I'm starting to have my doubts. Let's see. Ben Rayner writes, what's more likely, Bill and Ted 3 or Alex Winter cameo in John Wick 3? I mean, that could happen. I mean, that's no brainer, right? You don't even have to do anything special for that. Just say, hey, we've got a role of evil Russian gangster number 4. Hey, put Alex in it. Him and Keanu have been hanging around. Put Alex in that role for a minute. I mean, so I'd say it's a higher chance because you could do that in a day. You could just say, somebody gets on the phone with Alex. Alex, you want to come cameo in John Wick 3? Great. And he can be there in 15 minutes. Doesn't cost anything. Boom, done. So I will say that has a higher chance just because you can easily do it without any effort. All right, let's see here. Rodrigo Ortiz writes, honest question here. Do you think actors like Brad Pitt, Leo DiCaprio, etc. have to audition for movies still, or have they already paid their dues? It's not a matter of paying their dues. There are very, 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 very few actors like a Russell Crowe, like a Brad Pitt, like a Leonardo DiCaprio. There are very, very few actors, but there are some who are at the point that they do not have to go in and read for a role, and they don't have to go in and audition for a role. You'd be surprised that the vast majority, even some very well-known actors still do. Like, there are a lot of big-name actors who have to go and compete for a role. But there is that upper echelon of, characters that don't need to do that. Russell Crowe famously no longer reads for parts. You offer him a part, and then he decides if he wants to do it. Russell Crowe actually gets offended at the notion that he would have to go in and audition for something. There's something happened with that a little while ago. We won't go into all the details again, but a guy like Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt are definitely guys who are there. They get offered roles, and then they decide if they're going to take it. It's not a matter of paying their dues. It's a matter of that's just their status. That's just the status they have. Because of their recognizability, their star status, and the fact that they're stupidly talented. Like, the 3 names I just kind of threw out there, and, a Denzel would be another name that would be in there. Denzel does not have to audition for anything. So you get guys like Leo, Denzel, Russell Crowe, Brad Pitt. Not only these guys with a certain status and a certain star level power and all that kind of stuff, they're also stupid talented. If you're a producer or director, you know what you're getting if you get a Brad Pitt in your movie. You know what kind of performance you're going to get. You're going to get an all-star performance. You know what you're going to get in your movie if you get a Leonardo DiCaprio to agree. He's going to bring an all-star performance. You know what kind of performance you're going to get at a Denzel Washington if he agrees to be in your movie. He's going to bring an all-star performance. So, like, there's that very, very few upper crust club of performers and actors. Like Meryl Streep. I couldn't even begin to. I mean, it might be before I was born that Meryl Streep had to audition for a part. Meryl Streep's Meryl Streep, you know? So, yeah, there are a few of them that don't need to do that. But most of them do. Most actors do. Even the famous ones. Even most of the famous ones still do. But there's just a few that don't. All right, here. Ben Hayusa writes, and I rewatched Grandma's Boy the other day. Love, one of my most underrated comedies ever is Grandma's Boy. Rewatched Grandma's Boy the other day. As a gamer myself, I enjoy this movie and still holds up as one of my favorite comedies. R.I.P. Doris Roberts too. Yeah, Doris Roberts is so great in that. Everybody's so great in that. And you know what? I remember going into the theater to watch Grandma's Boy with no expectations. Even the poster's kind of dumb. It's got like an 80s Animal House kind of feel to it, the poster does. And I walked out of that theater, stopped in front of the poster again and go, and like, I don't know if I might have done this out loud, but it's like I pointed at the poster and went, you are way better than you have any business being. If you have not seen Grandma's Boy, oh my God, it's hilarious. Absolutely freaking hilarious. I love this movie with a deep and abiding passion. It's great. One of the most underrated comedies of all time. So if you haven't had a chance to watch Grandma's Boy, listen to Ben Hayusa and check it out. Ben Rayner writes, thoughts on Saul so far? I'm liking it so far. Yeah, I'm on board with it. I just got up to the part where Saul's brother tricks him into admitting what he did. That's what I got to. So that's, I think, the end of season 2. Is that what I'm at? Anyway. So I'm a couple seasons through now. I'm just getting ready to start season 3. And so far I'm liking it. It's like not my favorite show ever, but I'm digging it. I'm really liking it so far. Richard Karate writes, with James Gunn being very sought after. Oh, you mean sought after. With James Gunn being very sought after since his release from Disney, and with Boyle leaving Bond, do you think the Bond producers may have contacted Gunn? And if so, do you think Gunn would agree to do it? I don't know. Like, everybody knows I'm a big James Gunn fan. I think the guy's fantastic. I also think he's ridiculously good. I don't know if Bond... I don't know. Look, I don't know if Bond is the right film for him, you know? Now, he would definitely bring... One of the reasons I love the Edgar Wright name for Bond, because Edgar Wright is one of the guys they are talking to for Bond, is because Edgar Wright can tell the story, can do all that, but he can bring a little bit more humor to it. And that's something that Bond hasn't had for the last number of films. Like, if you go back to the Sean Connery Bond, there was always some great humor in that. Like, Bond would always have this some great dry one line to throw at you, right? And the Daniel Craig Bond, the way they've written it, has had a little bit of that, but it's been missing a little bit too. A guy like Edgar Wright could bring that. Could James Gunn? Yes. But I don't know. I just don't know that I see that as a fit. I don't know if I see that as a fit. Now, don't get me wrong. If they announced tomorrow that James Gunn was directing a James Bond film, I'd be very excited. But if I'm the producer, is James Gunn the first guy on my list for this particular movie? For a lot of movies, yes, James Gunn is right at the top of my list. For this particular movie, I'm not sure. It's a good question, but I'm not sure. Honestly, I think for a Bond, I think there are situations where I would take James Gunn over an Edgar Wright, but I also think there are situations, like this one in particular, that I would probably go with an Edgar Wright over a James Gunn. You can't lose. They're both great directors, but yeah, I do wonder if it would be the proper fit or not. Anyway, interesting question, man. Donaldo Martinez writes, with the new Jack Ryan series on Amazon, does it take away chances of a sequel movie with Chris Pine? I think the box office results... hold a second. I think the box office results of the Chris Pine movie is, what was it called? Shadow Recruit. There it is. I think it's the box office results that hurt the chances for that to happen. Let me just look it up. Yeah, the movie grand total worldwide made $135 million. It only made $50 million in North America. So it made $50 million domestically, not opening weekend, in total. Its opening weekend was just $15 million. People didn't line up to see it when it was coming out, and they didn't get any kind of word of mouth to get a bunch of people to come see it. It wasn't beloved by the audience, nor was it beloved by the critics. So I don't think the question is, does a new TV series lessen the chances of a Chris Pine Jack Ryan sequel? It's that there was no chance for a Chris Pine Jack Ryan sequel. I mean, it was already a dead thing. That was just not going to happen. It just wasn't going to happen. So, no, I don't think the new Jack Ryan series hurts its chances at all, because its chances were already zero, and I don't think you can get any lower than zero. So, no. But let's take it one step further. I also don't think a new Jack Ryan series necessarily takes away any possibility of a future Jack Ryan incarnation. It wouldn't be the Chris Pine one, because that one didn't work. But of another incarnation, that, yeah, you could have the series and have a movie. You could do it. I don't think it's super likely, but it's possible. Just not the Chris Pine one. All right, Ben Robison writes, watch Chinatown for the first time. It's perfection. Chinatown is one of those films. You know what? And I'm guilty of that. Chinatown is one of those movies that, you know, we've all got a collection of films that when somebody asks us, hey, I'm just really getting the movies, which one should I watch? And we've got a few standard ones we throw out. Lawrence of Arabia, you got to watch. Bridge on the River Kwai, you got to watch. Godfather, you got to watch. Ben-Hur, you got to watch. Chinatown is really one that should get mentioned more. And I think I'm as guilty as that as anybody. I don't think I mentioned that one very much. But it is great. And good on you, Ben, for getting caught up on that one. All right. Murray Reich writes, I saw Black Klansman, and boy, it was really funny, but also very heavy at times. The way the KKK was portrayed, especially the part where they showed a propaganda film, was very rough. David Washington was great. Top 5 film of 2018, 8 out of 10 for me. For me, I think it's my number 2 movie of the year so far. I really do. I think I came out of it wondering, is it my favorite film of the year? Nah, that's still A Quiet Place. Is it my second favorite film of the year? Yeah, I think it is. I think it is. And what Spike Lee does, and everybody knows, I'm not the biggest Spike Lee fan in the world, by any stretch of the imagination. Quite frankly, I think he's made some very, very good films, but I also think sometimes he's a little overrated. But whatever. What Spike Lee did with Black Klansman was breathtaking. And one of the things he did really well was the subject matter has the potential in Black Klansman to be so heavy that the audience could just drown in it. You know what I mean? What Spike Lee did was he made this incredibly powerful message of the film palatable by peppering in just the right amount of levity, just the right amount of lightness, and just the right amount of laughs from time to time, so that we don't get lost in the message through the heaviness of it consistently, but rather he peppers in some lightness, he peppers in some laughs and things like that, and it makes it all the more powerful for the messages to hit us. And it's so well done on that level, like masterfully done on that level, to be honest with you. He did such a great job with it, and I'm completely with you. It's more, for me personally, it's more than just a top 5 film. For me, it's my number 2 film of the year so far. And it's going to get a Best Picture nomination, for sure. It's for sure going to get a Best Picture nomination. I think there's a very good chance Spike Lee gets a Best Director nomination. I'm not going to say it's for sure, but I think there's a very good chance. Just a dynamite film. I just absolutely loved it. Glad you had a chance to watch it, Murray. Okay. Dim Sum 05 writes, Disney should continue with Guardians, even with Bautista being moody. Number 1, the majority of the movie-going audience doesn't care or follow this stuff. I'm just going to skip down. I'll come right back to you, Roy, in a second. And Dim Sum follows up with, this will be a bump in the road, and Disney cannot afford to set a precedent that will affect them in the long term. How much would it even affect box office? So what Dim Sum's talking about here is that we talked about the other day about how Dave Bautista has really put Disney in a very, very difficult situation. Almost a no-win situation. Dave Bautista's basically on his hands and knees begging Disney to fire him. He's begging Disney to let him out of his contract. He doesn't want to work for them anymore, and he clearly doesn't want to do Guardians 3 without James Gunn. However, he has to do it because they've got a contract. Completely understandable. This puts Disney in a very difficult spot. What do you do with him? Do you let him go? Well, now you just set a very dangerous precedent for all your actors that says, hey guys, if you ever want out of your contract, just tweet that you don't like us anymore and we'll let you out of your contract. Do you do that? I don't think so. That's a dangerous precedent to do. Or do you force him to do Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and have him continue to badmouth you on social media, talking about how he doesn't even want to be there, and that could hurt you. That could hurt your box office. I don't think you're wrong, Dim Sum. I think maybe the smart thing for them to do is just make him do Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And by then, maybe his contract's up after Guardians 3. But because he's already done his filming for Avengers 4. That's done. Maybe his contract's up, and then maybe just do Guardians 3 with him, and then he's finished his contract. You can let him go without there being any repercussions. Maybe that's what you do. So I don't necessarily think you're wrong. I think there are ways to look at it on both sides, but I don't think you're wrong there, man. I have a feeling that if I was Bob Iger right now, I probably sit down with Dave, and if I'm Bob Iger, I say to him, hey, look, we know we probably didn't handle the James Gunn situation right. We stand by that we let him go, but we probably didn't handle how we let him go correctly. And we're sorry for that. But here's the thing. We can't set a precedent of letting anybody out of their contracts just because they complain. And there are a lot of fans who love this Guardians franchise. They love you in the franchise. How about this? Let's get through this together. Let's just grit out one more film. We'll do Guardians 3 together whenever we get a director on board. We'll consult you and the staff about the new director we'll bring in. But then let's get through it. And then your contract's up and then you're free to do whatever you want to do. And then you can work with us again later, or you don't have to work with us again later. But how about we just get through this one together? That might be their best play. And I wouldn't send Alan Horn to have that conversation with him because Batista's probably pretty pissed at Alan Horn. I would make it Bob Iger himself. I would get Bob Iger, summon Batista to his office, take 5 minutes, sit down, say, Dave, here's our situation, man. Let's get through this one. Let's do this one together. And maybe you can fix it. Who knows? We'll have to see. Roy L. writes, about my earlier question about the whole Nike and Dave Batista thing, I meant because with Nike and Colin Kaepernick, with the new slogan that Dave Batista would fit. Oh, okay, I see. Oh, right. I just didn't get it because of your wording earlier, Roy. So Roy basically wrote in, how about Nike and Dave Batista team up? So Colin Kaepernick is kind of like the face of the Nike Just Do It things right now. And it says, what is the thing? Hold on a second. Let me look it up here. The actual slogan that Nike has put on the Colin Kaepernick thing is, believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything. Or something like that, right? So now I see what you're saying, Roy. Roy is saying, hey, you can make Dave Batista that, right? Believe in something, and he believes in standing up for his friend. Believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything, like standing up to Disney. Okay, that makes much more sense, Roy. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that and pointing that out, because I didn't know what you were talking about earlier. So thanks for clarifying that. Zach Bartran writes, during my Superman watch over the weekend, I also revisited Superman Returns and enjoyed it more than I originally did. Why does it get so much flack? Well, and honestly, here's the thing. I have always said this about Superman Returns, and I continue to say it. Superman Returns, the one with Brandon Routh, who I thought did a great job as Superman, Superman Returns is a good movie. It's just not a good comic book movie. Do you know what I'm saying? I think Superman Returns is a good movie. It's just not that great of a comic book movie. Like, when you've got Superman, and I liked Superman Returns. I enjoyed it. But I will admit it's not a great comic book movie. And when you got a character, this is why I will never argue against anybody who doesn't like Superman Returns, because I get it. I get where they're coming from, man. You've got the king of all superheroes, Superman. King of all superheroes. right? And you have him in a comic book movie, and he doesn't have one single fight. He battles a falling plane, and he lifts a mountain made of kryptonite, which he should never have been able to do. That was a mistake. I don't know what Bryan Singer was thinking there. Superman should walk into a room where there's a small amount of kryptonite and go, right? This was a mountain of kryptonite that he was lifting, and he's just going, no. It shouldn't have been. It should have been instant death. But anyway, you're in a movie. There's literally no fight. Superman has no one to fight. This is a comic book movie. It's Superman. The audience goes in. Look, I'm not saying filmmakers need to just address audiences' expectations. No, but I think it's a reasonable expectation that comic book movie audiences were going in to see Superman have at least one fight against an enemy, against an opponent. Instead, we watch a bullet bounce off his eye, and we get to see him lift a plane and see... A friend of mine once said it should have just been called Superman Lifts Stuff. Superman Lifts Stuff, the movie. Because that's essentially what it was. And it lacked... While I thought there was good drama in the film, and I thought there was good character development in the film, and I thought there was a decent narrative in the film, it was not, by any stretch of the imagination, an exciting film, and a Superman movie should probably have some of that. So I liked it, and I think it's a good movie, and yet I don't think it's that good of a comic book movie, and I can understand why a lot of people were very frustrated by it, and I get it, I really do. Jeff Jones writes, heard Jeffrey Dean Morgan is interested in playing Lobo, and Wesley Snipes is interested in playing Blade again. Thoughts? Pointless. Who cares? Every actor is interested in a paying role. Let's be straight about that. Every actor is interested in a paying job. That's not news. Hey, did you hear that Billy the plumber is interested in taking the plumbing job on that mansion? No, really? He's interested in getting that high-paying gig? Yeah, can you believe? I mean, no duh. Every actor wants every big role, with very, very few exceptions. Every actor wants every big role. Wesley Snipes, who's 2 steps away from, I don't know, driving Uber for a regular job, and all power to him if he does, but Wesley Snipes really is interested in joining the MCU as one of their popular characters that he used to play before and had some of his biggest success with? You don't say. Of course he's interested. Of course he is. There's no doubt about that. Of course he is. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is a working actor. Of course he wants a big role in a comic book movie. Of course he does. So yeah, to me, so I have no thoughts on that. That to me, my thought is, duh. Of course of course they do. They're actors who need paychecks to live and survive, and they want their careers to grow, and they get Of course they want a big thing like that. Absolutely they do. Sam Fisher writes, what did you think of Mayans? I haven't watched it yet. I really liked it, although I was surprised Emilio Alvarez isn't a regular, and I love Danny Pino and the guy who plays Coco. Again, Sam, I can't comment because I haven't seen a single episode yet, so I can't. I'm looking forward to it, but I can't address any of the stuff you just mentioned because I haven't seen it yet myself. Richard Karate writes, do you think it will be Rey that kills Kylo in episode 9? Look, she was trying to save and redeem him in 8, so do you think it could be a surprise character like Finn or Poe or even Chewie that kills Kylo? No, I think it's going to be Rey. Look, both Rey and Leia at one point thought Kylo could be turned. They both did. But by the end of The Last Jedi, they all realized there's no turning back for Kylo. That it's done. You can't save him. He's gone. Rey came to that understanding. Even his mother, even Leia came to that understanding. He's gone. That goodness she still kind of sensed in him from The Force Awakens ain't there anymore. It's gone. So yeah, I do believe. Now, look, I'm not saying it's a 100% guarantee that Rey will be the one to kill him. Anything can happen in these movies. But if I had to put $5 on it, I'm absolutely putting $5 on Rey being the one to do it. Absolutely. And I don't think there's any redemption story here for Kylo. I think this is a little bit of a juxtaposition of the Luke Skywalker story. Look, I've said this before, I will say it again. Both of them had what I call your come to Jesus moments. That pivotal moment where you've got to make your ultimate decision. For Luke, it was being egged on by the Emperor and Vader himself towards the dark side to give into his hate and anger, and he was little bit by little bit, Luke was giving into his fear and his hate and his anger, and came this close to killing Vader. But that was Luke's come to Jesus moment. And he made a decision, and his decision was throwing his lightsaber aside and saying, no, you'll not turn me like you turned Vader. I am a Jedi like my father before me. You failed, Your Highness. All that kind of stuff. That was his come to Jesus moment. To me, Kylo's come to Jesus moment was that moment in The Force Awakens, standing on that platform with his father reaching out to him, trying to help him. That was Kylo's come to Jesus moment. That he had to make a decision. Am I going to embrace the light that calls to me? Or am I going to embrace the dark that calls to me? He made the decision to drive a lightsaber through his dad's guts. And that was his decision. To me, that was the final step for Kylo Ren. And then as we got into The Last Jedi, Rey was sensing that there's this goodness in him, but you find out it was really just all Snoke pretending there was. Just like Snoke fooled Kylo into thinking he could turn Rey to his side. He fooled Rey into thinking she could turn Kylo to him. He fooled Kylo into thinking he could turn Rey over to his dark side. And at the end of it, it's like, they have that final confrontation. Let the past die. Forget it. Nope, join me. That's it. We're only conquering the galaxy. There's nothing else. So yeah, I do not believe at all there's any redemption story for Kylo Ren. And I do think it's going to be Rey that kills him. Again, I can't guarantee that. They could do something completely out of left field. But I think that's the way it's going to go. Murray Reich writes, Topher Grace played the despicable character David Duke so well. Oh, and Black Klansman. He was great. Seriously. And I've never been a big Topher Grace fan. I've never been like a That 70s Show fan either. But Topher Grace was awesome in Black Klansman. He was so good as David Duke. Like, you could totally understand his appeal. The way Topher Grace portrayed him was done in such a way that you could see how some people would be seduced by him. That charm, that friendliness, that aura he put out about him, Topher Grace captured it to the point you can understand. Because, you never believe, if you had somebody playing David Duke, we're going to kill all of our enemies, and talk like that, right? Well, there's a lot of people who never be fooled by that, never get seduced into that, and never start seeing things that way. But when you play that character the way Topher Grace did, you can go, yeah, I could see how a lot of angry, upset, scared, marginalized people would see a guy like this, see how he acts and how he talks and the way he communicates his message. I could see how a lot of people would be seduced by that. And that's all in his performance, man. And I thought he did a great job in it. Dead Dog Productions writes, thoughts on the streaming service Mubi? No idea what that is, man. Sorry, can't comment on it. Trevor Johnson writes, watch the trailer for Instant Family with Marky Mark, comedy about adoption. Teared up at the trailer. Parent-child emotional dynamics always get me. I saw that a trailer for that came out. I got an email notification from the studio saying, our new trailer for Instant Family is out, and I haven't watched it. My day has been crazy, all right? There's a reason we didn't start today's show at 2 o'clock like we normally do. It's been pushed off to 3 o'clock lately. So I have not had a chance to see it yet, but I saw that it was there. I am curious to check it out, so thanks for reminding me about that, Trevor. Sebastian writes, did Solo screw the Star Wars brand? I think it did. No, Solo was a good movie. Solo was a solid movie. It didn't do well at the box office because nobody wanted it. Nobody was interested and nobody was asking for a Han Solo movie without Harrison Ford when we've just been seeing Harrison Ford in the role. Nobody wanted that. Nobody asked for it. So, but the movie itself, under the the tutelage of Ron Howard, the movie was an entertaining, good movie. It's a good movie. It's not perfect, but it's a good, entertaining, fun space adventure movie. It's quite good. So no, it didn't screw the Star Wars brand, not at all, not in the slightest. Mike Hill writes, I hope they redeem Superman in the Arrowverse crossover. As you can tell, I'm a big fan of what... As you can tell, I'm a big fan. What do you think? Oh, I hope so. I mean, somebody brought up the idea the other day that what if they're bringing Superman in to this Arrow crossover? Because remember, there's a 3-episode Arrowverse crossover with Arrow, Flash, and Supergirl. And somebody brought up the suggestion, what if they start, and we've heard that Superman's going to be in all 3 of those episodes. What if they're doing an Injustice Gods Among Us kind of storyline? Because remember, they did that kind of a Crisis on Infinite Earth story a little bit. They did Crisis on Earth X, right? What if they very loosely do an Injustice storyline where Superman becomes the antagonist? Within that, you can redeem Superman. You can redeem Superman there because you set it up where it's like Supergirl's like realizing, no, I can't take this guy down alone. Flash, nope, even the 2 of us together. Flash and Supergirl and Arrow and all of their collective teams maybe have a chance to take down Superman. You do that, you've got a potentially really great story, and you redeem the Superman character that you so terribly soiled in your garbage TV show. So that's possible. It is possible. And maybe that's what they're going to do with them. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. I'm going to stay optimistic. Mike, I'm going to stay optimistic. Let's see here. 23 Mark B writes, when a TV show gets canceled, like Lucifer, are the actors free from their contracts? But if the show gets picked up, do they have to return? It all depends on the contract, right? So here's the thing. A lot of these contracts are transferable. Like let's say I'm producing a show. All right, let's say I, John Campea, am producing a show. And I sign a contract with Billy Bob to act in my show. He signs a contract with me to minimum appear in 2 seasons of my show. So Billy Bob has a contract with me to appear in 2 seasons of my show. Now, I bring my show to Netflix and put my show on Netflix. But Netflix cancels the show. Okay. I now take this show and I go over to Hulu, and Hulu picks it up. Does Billy Bob's contract still in effect? Yes, because Billy Bob's contract wasn't with Netflix. Billy Bob's contract was with me, the producer. And I'm still making the show. Who I'm distributing the show through and who's picking it up and who's airing it is kind of irrelevant. I'm the production company on it. The actor had the contract with me. Now, if Netflix canceled my show after season 1, and nobody else picked it up, then yes, at that point I've got to release them from their contract because I've got no one to do the show. I can't do the show. I've got no network willing to air it. But other than that, Billy Bob still has his contract with me. So if I'm able to seamlessly, and remember this Lucifer situation was done seamlessly. They never missed a season. They're going right from season 3 on Fox into season 4 on Netflix. But the contract's with me, not with Netflix, so therefore... So yes, I believe the contracts were still valid and enforceable. But listen, they all wanted the work. None of them were looking to get out of this contract. That's why they were all begging, fans and encouraging fans online or on social media, tell the networks to renew this show, fight to save this show, because they all wanted to keep their gigs. They all wanted to keep their jobs. So keeping them in their contracts was not a problem. That was not a hard thing for them to do. Sebastian writes... please insert a dumb question here. Do you like cheese? I love cheese, as a matter of fact. I love cheese far more than I should. Javier Rias405 writes, what are your thoughts on the Dallas Cowboys? Do you like them or hate them? I hate them, but I used to love them. Back when I was a kid growing up, like a young kid growing up, the Dallas Cowboys had a quarterback by the name of Danny White. And I was a big Danny White fan. And I think this is in the day when Tony Dorsett was the running back and all that kind of stuff. I mean, this is years ago when I was just really young. But I believe Danny White was the last quarterback. You'd have to look this up. I think Danny White was the last quarterback who was also the punter. I could be wrong about that. Hold on a second. Danny White, QB punter. Let me just see if that's still the case. Danny White is a former quarterback and punter for the Dallas Cowboys. That's right. So there it was. But ever since then, I've always hated the Dallas Cowboys. I hate the Dallas Cowboys. I think they're terrible. I think they have really bad ownership. I think they have a terrible team culture. I think they breed a culture of potential yet losing. They breed a culture of having worlds of potential, but a culture that also is just set up to fail. And I cheer at their failure. I hate that team. Them and the New York Giants. I hate those two teams. There you go. And now everybody's like, all the Dallas Cowboys fans and the New York Giants. Hey, sorry guys. I like the Patriots. And before anybody starts calling me a bandwagon fan, remember, I was a big Patriots fan back when, I'm looking at his face. Why am I, hold a second. Oh my God. I'm trying just to remember. It was Drew Bledsoe, right? I started watching the Patriots because here's how I became a New England Patriot fan. I was a big fan of the Buffalo Bills because they were just right across the lake from me. Like, I grew up in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Buffalo was like an hour and a half away. So that was the closest NFL team to me, right? So I grew up as a Buffalo Bill fan. The first Super Bowl remember, Buffalo Bills went to 4 Super Bowls in a row. The first one they lost was to the New York Giants on a last-second missed field goal. They could have won the Super Bowl, but they missed the field goal. The winning team that year was the New York Giants, coached by the immortal Bill Parcells. And I was just a big fan. I became a big fan of Bill Parcells. Eventually, Bill Parcells ends up coaching the New England Patriots. So I start following him over there, and I start to become a fan of the Patriots. And I was a fan of the Patriots when Drew Bledsoe was the quarterback. And I honestly got mad when Bledsoe got injured, and they gave the starting job to this kid, Tom Brady. And then Brady won a bunch of games, but then Drew Bledsoe came back from his injury, but they kept this starting job with Tom Brady. And I was like, no, you shouldn't lose your starting job to injury. If you come back from your injury, you should get your job back. So I was mad at this Tom Brady kid, right? But lo and behold, they just kept winning with this Tom Brady kid. And I was a fan of them ever since Bill Parcells went over. That's when I became a fan. So what can I say? I like teams that win. Okay. So anyway, Trevor Johnson writes, curious about Hancock. It made $624 million on a $150 million budget and seemed totally open to go anywhere sequel-wise. Just none interested? Yeah, I mean, that's a topic that comes up a bunch. The topic of, I almost said John Wick. The topic of Hancock comes up a lot because it was a movie that made a decent amount of money. It was a decent movie. I mean, the third act kind of fell apart a bit, but the first 2 acts were great. And I think overall it's a good movie. I think overall Hancock's a good, solid film. I enjoy it. And it made a decent amount of money. It clearly was profitable. Whatever happened? Why didn't they do a sequel? An original superhero property that wasn't based in the comics, as far as I know. An original superhero comedy who the first one made decent money, like good, solid money, and they never did a sequel. I mean, I believe Jason Bateman was in it. I think it was Jason Bateman. I could be wrong about that, but Will Smith, Charlize Theron, like, it was a great cast, great setup, great characters you could use moving forward. Yeah, the third act of the first movie got a little stupid, but whatever. I mean, the movie was still good. I'll never know why they didn't do it. I mean, look, if I ever sit down and talk to Will Smith, which I doubt I ever will, but if I ever get the opportunity to sit down and talk with Will Smith, I got a feeling the very first question I'm going to ask him is, what happened with Hancock? Why didn't another one get made? It made money? Was good enough of a movie? Why not? I mean, that's a great question. I would have to ask him that sometime. All right, Sebastian writes, Ben Affleck, Warner Brothers, massive fracture with Batman equals alcohol. I think it was more than that. I think it was much more than that. I think the fracture was even before that. But But hey, I mean, who knows? I mean, it's clearly a contributing factor. I mean, that's no doubt. But we'll have to wait and see. Because I don't think it's just that Warner Brothers wanted rid of Ben Affleck. I think Ben Affleck started getting sick of being in the DC universe there. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. All I know is that I will give up a kidney to get a Ben Affleck written and directed Batman movie. Dear heavens, give me a Ben Affleck written and directed Batman movie. I will give you a kidney. I just really want it really badly. All right. KW Garrett writes, why aren't Lily and Shadow a part of your show? Okay, fine. It serves no practical purpose. They probably... hold a second. Okay. Okay, fine. It serves no purpose, and they probably knock over expensive equipment, but still worth it. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Lily and Shadow are my dogs. Lily and Shadow are my... Let me see if I can find a picture here of my dogs for you. Hold on a second. Where's a good picture of my dogs? Here's a decent one. This is a decent little picture of them. And I'll bring it up here on screen. These are my dogs. Oop, that didn't want to work. Hold on a second. Let me try this again. Yeah. Huh. That's not working. Why is that not working? Let me see if I can find another picture that will work well for it. All right, this is a good one. Hopefully this one will work. If this one doesn't work, I don't know what I'm going to do. This one works. Okay, here's a picture of Lily and Shadow. These are my two little puppies. And I don't know if this is back when I was doing my show for Lionsgate called Comic-Con HQ. And this, do you guys remember Haletta? Haletta Alamu was one of my co-hosts on that show, Film HQ. And she also then, I brought her over to Collider for a while to do our Netflix show that we had there. Anyway, we did this one episode of Film HQ where we needed our dogs in the park. And those are my two dogs, Lily and Shadow, and they're wonderful. But here's the thing. Anne and I live in a place that we aren't supposed to have pets. And because we aren't supposed to have pets, it's very difficult for us to have them here. Now, we still have them here every once in a while. Every once in a while, we still have them here. But only usually for a couple of days. For the most part, the dogs stay at our place in Corona, California, which is about an hour away. And they stay with Anne's mom and Anne's brother. And they stay there at the house because there they have a backyard. This is, sorry guys, you got me now talking about my dog. So that's a dangerous thing to do. So this is one of my dogs. This is Shadow. And Shadow's favorite thing is when I'm on a recliner and I cross my legs like that. She loves curling up like a little fort under my knee against the leg rest of the recliner and with my knee over top of her. She loves like kind of just crawling in there and being kind of snugged in there. Anyway. So, I know, sorry, you guys did not tune into the show today to hear me talk about my dogs. I get it. But the bottom line is that 90% of the time, my dogs aren't here. So, I have them here for a few days sometimes. But that's why one of the reasons Anne and I go out to Corona every weekend. So we can spend time with our dogs and spend time with Anne's family. And so the dogs hang out with us. And then every once in a while, we'll bring them back here for a few days too. But the reason you never see them on my show is because they're usually not here. So that's why you usually don't see them. Okay, let's move on. Sorry for getting sidetracked there, guys. Murray Reich writes, Agnes, will you read us a bedtime story? Gru, no. Agnes, pretty please, Gru, fine. Gru reading. Did you ever hear about the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? There's a nice little movie mashup there right now. I want to give the kids nightmares before they go to bed. I'm a big fan, by the way, of the Despicable Me movies. Particularly Despicable Me 2. I was not a fan of Despicable Me 3, even though that movie joined the $1 Billion Club. I actually didn't think that one was all that good, but I'm a big fan of the first two films, quite a bit. Let's see. James Hardy writes, you had question regarding Sean Connery's best performance. Have you ever seen The Hill? Great performance from Sean Connery and direction from Sid Lumet. Hold a second. I think I have, but let me double check. Just to make sure. You know what? No, this isn't the one I was thinking of. I do not think I've seen this one. I don't think I've seen this one, as a matter of fact. So, no. But that's one I got to put on my radar. Oh, Ian Bannon's in that one too. Ooh. Yeah, no, this isn't the. I thought, yeah, I think I've seen that. But, oh, no, I haven't. That's one I have not seen. Thanks for bringing that up, James. I appreciate it. Dim Sum 05 writes, Black Dynamite, Anaconda, Little Richard. I'm not sure what it is we're talking about, Dim Sum. Trevor Johnson writes, movie recommendation. The Conversation with Gene Hackman, directed by Coppola, had me on the edge of my seat. Creepy, chilling ending. I loved it. Again, I believe I saw it, but I was wrong about that before. If it's the one, I think it was like in the early 70s or something. Come on, load. I think it's the one about like where he works with the government. There it is. Okay, yes, it is the one I thought about. 1974, Gene Hackman, John Cazale, Alan Garfield, Frederick Forrest, and it's about a Secret Service expert in the crisis of conscience who suspects that a couple whom he is spying will be murdered. And what does he do? Blah, blah. Yes, I gotta say though, I think I've seen this movie once, like forever ago. Like I was just born, I was in diapers when this movie came out, literally. But it's a Francis Ford Coppola movie. I remember liking it. Like I think I saw it in the early 80s, something like that. But I think I got to revisit this one. This one looks pretty good. I should revisit this one. And oh my goodness, hold a second. And a young Harrison Ford. Yep, a young Harrison Ford. Oh my goodness. All right, let's see. Sebastian writes, let's be honest, Ben Hayusa caught you napping. No, it was just, it was one of those things where I accidentally skipped, like I forgot which subject we were on, because we have a number of subjects, right? Subject 1, 2, 3, 4. And I think I just skipped one over and missed it and just then forgot all about it. And then I had to go back and get on. If he caught me napping, I would have just forgotten to do the show at all. Sam Fisher writes, I meant Emilio Rivera. Again, Sam, I don't know what it is you're talking about. And I don't have time to run back through all the questions to try to figure it out. Sorry, man. Like, hey guys, do me a favor. If you ever are writing in again to clarify something, please give me the context, because I can't remember how many questions ago that was, and I can't remember what it was we were talking about. And I don't got 10 minutes to scroll through everything to find it. So just moving forward, include the context of what it is you're saying, because I may not remember what it is we're talking about. Patrick Conway writes, any hope for Man from U.N.C.L.E. 2? Yes, as a matter of fact, there is hope. Hold a second. There was a story a while ago, back in March or April. Yes, there is. They are looking at it. They are looking at it. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about this. I can't. Oh, let me just see if I can bring this up. It's too small right there. Anyway. My thumbnail image for my Man from U.N.C.L.E. trailer is a really good thumbnail image. Anyway, I was going to show it to you guys. Yeah, so back in March or April, something like that, sometime earlier this year, it got revealed that they're at least starting to develop a Man from U.N.C.L.E. 2, and they're having a script written. That does not mean that they're going to do a movie, but it at least means there's at least some interest there to do another one. I think they totally should. Man from U.N.C.L.E. was wonderful. Let me just look up... it didn't do great at the box office. Let me just look up the box office numbers here. It did not do great at all. It only made $109 million. Only made $110 million. Really unfortunate. But it's a good movie, man. It was really good. Henry Cavill, Armie Hammer. I think it was Emily. No, it wasn't Emily Blunt. Who was in that with them? Alicia Vikander. That's who it was. It's a great movie. I thoroughly enjoyed that film. I've watched it like 4 or 5 times. It's a great potential franchise, and I hope they decide to give. I would totally understand why they wouldn't. Again, it did not. It flopped at the box office, so I would totally understand why they wouldn't do another one. But I really hope they do, because I thought the first one was really high quality, and I thought it just lends itself to a potential franchise. I thought the chemistry between Armie Hammer and Henry Cavill was great. I would love to see another one. But yeah, there is hope for it. It's not likely, but there is hope for it. So let's keep our eyes open for that. Let's see. Jedi Lori writes, where's Kathleen Kennedy? Silence from her since Solo. Well, I mean... what is there for her to say? You know, what's there for Kathleen Kennedy to say? There's nothing for her to say at this point, right? So it's not like she's the Lucasfilm spokesperson. She's the president of the company. You know, so there we go. I mean, it's not like Kevin Feige, who's got like 3-4 films coming out every year. I mean, they don't have another Star Wars movie coming out until next Christmas. So I wouldn't really expect anything from Kathleen Kennedy at this point. So, yeah. Let's see. Murray Reich writes, imagine this alternate universe scenario. Star Wars 9 premiere was same night as Game 7 of the NHL Eastern Conference Finals, and the Leafs are in it. Which do you choose over it? I go to the Star Wars 9 premiere. Because if it was a Stanley Cup final, even if it's just game 1 of the Stanley Cup final, I skip the Star Wars 9 premiere and I do it. If it's just the Eastern Conference final, I probably go to the Star Wars premiere. But if it's the Stanley Cup final, then I stay home and watch the Leafs game. That's how I kind of fracture that out. All right, Factual Opinion writes, when Kurt Sutter makes the first 9, the founding members of Sam Crow, I hope it will be a miniseries and not a movie. I mean, it all depends on how the Mayans does. If the Mayans doesn't do well, I don't think we're going to see a first 9. And I'll be honest with you, while I was still very interested in a Mayan show, I was kind of more interested because there was this notion of either doing a first 9 movie that Brad Pitt at one point was rumored to be connected with. They said they're going to do that before they do a Mayans. That didn't really come together. If the Mayan show doesn't catch on, I don't think you're going to see a first 9 movie. Either way. But I got a feeling it would be a movie and not a miniseries. I don't think there's a lot of interest in doing it as a miniseries at this point. Sebastian writes, your opinion on Jeffrey Owens is spot on, grinding. So for those of you who might have missed it this morning, Jeffrey Owens was an actor, was a regular series member on The Cosby Show. And then this whole thing broke out this week where somebody snapped a picture of him working at a Trader Joe's, which is a grocery store. He's got a gig. He's got a job. He's got to pay his bills. And some people were job shaming him. It's like, look, he's working. It's like, the dude's doing honest work. He's working for a living, paying his bills, meeting his responsibilities. And you're mocking him? Give me a break. That's pathetic. I think it's great. I think it's awesome that the guy's doing it. He's not playing like, oh, I was a celebrity. I shouldn't have to do anything. No. He's going out there getting a job and he's working. Good for him. Good for him. I like that. Prolapsed Anus writes, highly recommend giving Brooklyn Nine-Nine a second chance if you haven't. Honestly, one of the smartest and funniest sitcoms on TV. I don't know, man. It's one of those things where I watched a couple of episodes and I never laughed. I just didn't find it funny. And maybe now granted, I only saw about 3 episodes, granted, but they just never made me laugh. And I'm an Andy Samberg fan. I love the dude. Whether it's his Lonely Island stuff or any of his other stuff, I am a fan of Andy Samberg. So I was really interested in Brooklyn Nine-Nine was coming out, and then I watched it, and I was like, this didn't make me chuckle. Didn't make me laugh. If you're a comedy not making me laugh, that's bad. Now, a lot of people love the show, and that's great, and I was really happy that it got picked up by a new network after it got canceled because there are a lot of people who like the show. So I don't know. Look, I'm having a hard enough time keeping up with TV as it is without wasting my time watching shows I'm not interested in, so I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Rami J. Royster writes, where did he go? All right. Rami J. Royster writes, why do so many YouTubers have their mouths wide open and eyes bugging out when doing reaction videos? I don't know. That's part of the thing that bugs me about reaction videos is that, look, 90% of the time, reaction videos are not real. They're not actually how a person reacts watching it. I know a lot of very popular reactors, and I've watched trailers with them, and the whole, whoa, whoa, that's not how they act when they're watching a trailer. But when the camera's on, it's, whoa, oh, like it's the stuff that you don't really do, but they'll do it when the camera's on. So, and that's fine. That works. I'm not judging it. I'm just saying that's why I don't do reaction videos. Like I try doing reaction videos, but people generally will find my react videos pretty boring. Because I just watch it, and even if I really like it, I'm like, ha. I mean, that's about it. That's the biggest reaction for me. So why bother watching me watch something? I would rather do trailer breakdown videos. And I'm not saying those are better. I'm just saying for me, that's a better thing for me to do personally. You know? If you're talking about like some other people that do like reaction videos, it's much better for them to do straight up reaction videos because it's more natural for them to do those. For somebody like me, not nearly as much. I mean, a good example of some really good reactors online are like Real Rejects, right? Real Rejects do a pretty good job doing reaction videos. But again, that's just not for me because I don't do that. And what's the point in watching somebody if they're not reacting? You know what I mean? So that's just why I don't do it. But yeah, no shade at all on anybody else who does them. It's just that's not a good thing for me to do. That's all. Because it would be pretty boring for me to do them. Darth Impact writes, "Hey John, what do you think of Regina King?" Oh, I love Regina King. What do you think of Regina King? Just announced to be in Watchmen. I think she's one of the most underrated actresses today. I love her. I don't know if I consider her to be one of the most underrated actresses, but I do know this. I'm always smiling when I see that she's in a movie. Whenever Regina King comes on screen, I'm happy. I think she's really talented. She always gives a heartfelt performance, whether it's comedy or drama or whatever it is she's doing. I just like seeing her on screen, man. And she's beautiful. She's talented. Yeah, I just like seeing her when she's in a movie. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I don't know if I would say she's underrated, but I would count myself as a fan. I would definitely count myself as a fan. But you guys have heard me talk about her before. Jonathan Teft writes, "Did you see American Animals this year? My third favorite movie of the year. Fantastic blend of biopic and documentary storytelling techniques. Nah, I never went to go see it. I totally meant to, but just didn't get the chance to go see it. I remember this one time I had the option of going to see that or Upgrade. There's this one free evening I had to either go watch that or Upgrade, and I made the choice to see Upgrade. So I didn't have a chance yet, but you're not alone, Jonathan. I've heard very good things about it. So I got to sit my ass down and watch this movie because I've heard not a lot of people have seen it, but those who have seen it are like you, Jonathan, seem to like it very much. So I need to get my ass in gear and watch that one. Sebastian writes, "Do you know Dan Merle? You guys are my number one movie resource." Do I know Dan Merle? Yes. Dan Merle and I have been on screen many times together. As a matter of fact, you know, Christian has his movie trivia schmodown thing. The very first movie trivia schmodown of the new era of it was me versus Dan Merle, and Dan beat me on that. But it was great, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And Dan's terrific. I bump into Dan every once in a while. Super nice guy, very knowledgeable, just a very cool, collected, nice dude. Just a really, really nice dude. I got a lot of respect for Dan Merle. Let's see here. Tyler Yeats writes, "Hey John, what reasons do you think there would be for Avengers 4 to not beat out Infinity War, the opening weekend box office?" That's the wrong question. The question is, why would it? Because by asking the question, what are the reasons why it wouldn't? That's like saying, why would it fail? Well, the opening weekend record is the opening weekend record. I just don't know that there are enough compelling things there to suggest that it would beat it. And it very well may beat it. It may beat the opening weekend record. I mean, there's enough there to suggest that it has a chance of doing that. Yes. But it is the record. And it ain't going to be easy to beat. And Marvel has already played its card of, it's all been building up to this. They played that card with Infinity War. The whole thing, this whole marketing campaign with Infinity War is the whole MCU has been a big accumulation building up to this moment of Avengers Infinity War. They've played that card. And it was a great card to play. You don't have that card to play anymore. You can try, but a lot of the audience are going, yeah, we've heard you say that already. And this feels... I just think it's going to be monstrous. It's going to be huge. It's going to be mega successful. But I just don't know that it's going to break that record. It has a chance, and I think it'll be close either way. But if I had to put $5 on it, no, I don't think there are, because there's not enough compelling reasons to suggest why it would. It's not a matter of getting the reasons about why it wouldn't. It's just that there's not enough reasons to suggest why it would. It's going to be big, huge, successful, big box office smash hit, and hopefully just as good as the last film. But I don't think there's enough compelling reasons there to suggest that it will beat the record. Very well could. But I just, if I had to put $5, I wouldn't put $50 on it, but if I had to put $5 on it, that's what I'd say. Let's see. Cody S. writes, "Hey John, love your show." Thank you so much, Cody. Do you think we would have had a Hulk sequel had they cast Mark Ruffalo from the start over Edward Norton? No, because that had nothing to do with whether or not they did a Hulk sequel. The issue was that Marvel no longer wanted to distribute their films through another studio. That became the issue. The issue wasn't Ed Norton. Like, they just wouldn't have done, they weren't going to work with Ed Norton again. But that's fine. They could have just recast the Hulk, which they did. The problem is Marvel doesn't want to make a movie, a Hulk movie, if they have to let Universal distribute it. And Universal has the distribution rights to it, and they ain't letting them go. So as long as that's the case, there's going to be a stalemate. You're not going to see standalone Hulk movies. So it really had nothing to do with the Mark Ruffalo or Edward Norton situation. It has everything to do with the distribution rights situations. That's what's caused them to not do another standalone Hulk movie. That and that alone is what caused them not to do another Hulk movie. All right. Eric Garcia writes, "Do you play any Telltale games?" Yeah, I've played a couple. There's the Game of Thrones one. There was the Walking Dead one. I started playing the Batman one. I only played the Batman one for about 5 minutes, and then I just got busy. But yeah, I've played a couple of them. I don't know that I would call them games, per se. They're really more play-along stories. They're really more like choose-your-own-adventure stories, kind of. And they're even not all that choose-your-own-adventure. But they're entertaining and they're fun. But me and Ann have had this discussion a couple of times, and Kaori's like, are they really games, though? I don't know. It's an interesting way to think about it. Rami follows up with, "When are we going to get another crazy Nicolas Cage performance? Like the bees in The Wicker Man?" Hopefully never, not those guys. But I'll tell you what, hold a second. I am hearing good things. I am hearing very good things about, let me see if I can find it here. Is it Between Worlds? Is that it? Or is it Primal? Let me just double check. It's either Between Worlds or Primal. I don't think it's in Between Worlds. Was it Primal that I heard good things about? I think it might be Primal. So anyway, and I might be wrong. The Primal's the one he's doing with Famke Janssen, who was Phoenix in the X-Men movies. It's one of his films. I remember I was just talking to a director friend of mine, and Nick Cage come up. He said, "By the way, have you heard about blah?" And he named a movie. He goes, "We're hearing good things about this," and that it's kind of like a Nick Cage return to form. Maybe it was Primal. It might have been something else. I don't know for sure. But what I would love to see is Nick Cage return to his Oscar-winning form as opposed to the crazy form. But by the way, you want to know why Kick-Ass 1 was better than Kick-Ass 2? Because Kick-Ass 1 had Nicolas Cage as Big Daddy. That's why. I've always said this about I like Kick-Ass 2, but it has a giant Big Daddy-shaped hole in its heart. It's just missing its heart, and I thought Big Daddy was the heart of that first film. So anyway, that's just kind of my thought. Ben Rayner writes, "The use of Jurassic Park score in Ted 2 floors me every time." I think you mean every time you hear it. The scene where, I believe it's the scene when they come across the marijuana field. Ba 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 ba. I think that was it, right? I think that's the scene you're talking about. And if so, yes, I remember seeing that scene, and I just about chucked up a lung. I was laughing so hard at that. I'll tell you, Ted 1 is better than Ted 2. But Ted 2 has a couple of bigger laugh moments than Ted 1 has. There are some outstanding, huge, big laugh moments in that movie, and that is definitely one of them. Koba writes, "Will we ever get Tintin 2? Man, that's been a topic that's come up a bunch of times, Koba. Honestly, I know they keep saying they're going to do it. As a matter of fact, Steven Spielberg was just at I just saw Steven Spielberg at the John Williams concert. Steven Spielberg was a special guest, came out, told a bunch of stories, and they mentioned Tintin, but he didn't say anything about Tintin 2. Not that it was the place to talk about Tintin 2. I just thought it was interesting that there he was talking about Tintin, but he didn't necessarily bring up Tintin 2. So I thought that was, look, everything official says they're still going to do it at some point, but I am losing my belief that it's ever actually going to happen. Like with Spielberg now having like 3 films coming up that he's directing, Peter Jackson being tied up in a bunch of stuff. Now, apparently, Spielberg is supposed to produce, and I think Jackson is supposed to direct the next Tintin film, but I don't know when either of them are going to have time. And they've talked about it and they keep saying they're going to do it, but honestly, Koba, I'm starting to feel like it's not going to happen. Bryce Walters writes, are you going to see The Nun in theaters? Yeah, I'm going to go see it tomorrow night. Very stoked to see it. I'm excited to see that one, so yeah, I'm going to go see that one tomorrow. Bryce follows it up with, do you think Avengers 4 will have the same tone as Avengers 3? To a degree, yes. A different ending, like the heroes are going to win at the end of Avengers 4. We know that. So it's going to, yes, I think it will have a similar tone, but also a very different ending. But yeah, I think so. I think it will have that same tone. Roy L. writes, have you seen the new Hollywood Supernatural parody? Yeah, somebody else asked about that. I believe it was a week or 2 ago, and I did watch as a result of that, as a matter of fact, so I did. Robert Perez writes, Anne's gone for a week, party at John's. Yeah, Anne leaves, and, with her job with Hasbro, and Hasbro's head offices are in Rhode Island, right beside Boston, so every couple of months, she's got to fly out to Rhode Island for a week or 2, and I barely survive while she's gone, but she leaves tomorrow morning. So, tonight after me and Robert do Weekly Hero, I'm just going to spend the rest of the evening with Anne. We're going to eat some food, watch some movies, relax, and then she's got to get up really early to catch an Uber to go to the airport and fly out to Rhode Island. She'll be gone for a week. So, yep, I'm going to be a mess. Let's see here. Rob D writes, Rob D writes, who gets the IMAX with all the movies coming out on December 21st? Whichever one made the agreement with IMAX. I have a feeling it's going to be Bumblebee. We'll get them. I don't really care because I don't go to watch movies on IMAX screens. I always go to the AMC Primes when I have the option. So it's not that really big of a deal to me. But it's all about who makes the deal with IMAX. That's who's going to get the IMAX screens. And I have a feeling it's going to be Bumblebee. I can't back that up. That's just me speculating. But I have a feeling it's going to be Bumblebee. Okay, guys, I just got a few minutes left here. Ian Wendu writes, did they really de-age Sam Jackson? He looks the same. That's exactly what I said, Ian. Like, I looked at the picture and said, so that's the young Nick Fury. Kind of just looks like Nick Fury. I don't see a lot of de-aging happening, but maybe that's just me. But I had the exact same reaction, man. Exact same reaction. Chef Cook writes, hey, John, is there any movie you like Is there any movie you'd like to turn into a TV series? Is there a TV show is there a TV show turned into a movie? I don't know. I generally like my movies as movies. I like my TV shows as TV shows. So that's generally the way I feel about that. Kyle Brackman writes, if you could play a fictional character in a movie or a show, who would you pick? None. I'm a terrible actor. I couldn't act to save my life. I simply could not act to save my life. So I'm going to have to go out on a limb there and say none, because I wouldn't want to subject anybody else to my horrible, horrible, horrible acting. So I will go with the none on that. Absolutely none on that. I'm just trying to think for 1 second, though. I'm just trying to think if there is any, going back to Chef Cook's question, I'm trying to think if there is any movies that I'd like to see as a TV show or vice versa. Not really. Well, you know what? I take that back. There is one. And that's Battlestar Galactica. I would love to see Battlestar Galactica done as a feature film. Preferably a trilogy of films, but I'll even just take one. That's the one exception, Chef Cook, is that one. For the most part, though, movies are movies, TV shows are TV shows. I don't really give a crap about whether one becomes the other. I don't care. But the one exception to that, I will say, would be Battlestar Galactica. That would be the one I would say. All right, guys. That will do it for me for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. And thank you so much for sending in all the questions, all that kind of stuff. Guys, in just an hour and a half from now, at 5:30, The Weekly Hero is up and running. It's me and Robert Meyer Burnett talking about all the stuff going on in the world of comic book movies and some TV show stuff and stuff like that. Make sure you come back and join us in an hour for that. Don't forget the John Campea Show returns tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I'll be back there. And of course, Open Mic will be back again tomorrow afternoon. That will do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for being here and supporting the show. My name's John Campea, and until Weekly Hero in about an hour, bye-bye.